definitely not shut up and dribble.
The champ is here.
I must be the greatest.
The champ is here.
I'm going to continue to stand with the people.
The champ is here.
I will not lose.
I'm a bad man. I took up the world.
Yes, welcome. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you were here with we. My name is EJ, and I got my man.
MH.
He is the DB of the show, and we are Black in Sports, giving a voice to the culture that won't shut up and dribble. And here today, man, we're bringing you back inside the locker room, but we're bringing you that special edition. You see him on the screen. We have the Rubrick, Mr. Brandon, in the house, man. So anytime you see him, you know we're going to be heavy on the basketball topic. So without further ado, man, B, you ready to do this?
Let's do it, man. Let's get into it, bro.
Love it, man. So man, just kind of since the last time we've been on, man, there's a lot that's been happening, man. So we can talk about some of the fun stuff, but we can fill the gaps. But I think I want to jump into the most important stuff, like that newsworthy things that's kind of been happening right now, man. So I'll let you kick it off, man, and we'll fill in the blanks.
Yeah, man. I think a big thing that casual fans may not be thinking about is the CBA. And it's a big deal for the players, a big deal for the league overall. It was just signed, I think ratified, let's say in the last month or so. They came to an agreement here over the past couple of months, and it's reshaping how teams are going to be put together. As fans, we love to see these dominant teams. Think of the Bulls, think of the Warriors, or even these top-heavy 2-3 big names. I mean, those days are going to be harder and harder for teams to achieve under the new CBA. So that's something, man.
Now, before you get too far in that, man, how often is the CBA done? And can they agree how long they because I didn't know it was already going to be up.
Yep, 2017 was the last one. So, and this current one was signed in 2023. It can extend them through 2029 to get through a lockout. That's the earliest that a lockout could happen under this one.
So one of the things, so kind of tell us a little bit what you mean by like, it's going to be harder for these teams or these supermarket teams or whatever.
Yeah. So if you think about the Warriors, we think they have a stacked squad. Then they went and got Kevin Durant. The Nets, they had Kyrie, they had KD, they had James Harden. The Suns ended up getting KD, then got dude from Washington. And then they got, you already had Book. Teams like that are going to be hard to put together because of they introduced this new soft cap called an apron, a second apron, which means that it basically limits teams from being able to spend money without significant tax penalty. So teams that don't spend,
they're good.
Bruh, they'll be fine. But like the Bombers of the world, the Josiahs of the world,
Warriors, like you were saying. I mean, their luxury tax is up there right now, right?
Crazy luxury tax. I think the cap last year was $123 million. They had teams coming in at 190.
Nice. So that's crazy. But they'll find loopholes around it, right? Like they have to work with it a little bit, and they'll kind of like start finding, ways to work around it if possible.
But it'll affect the big names, though. That's where it's going to be really big, like the Kyries, the KDs, those types of players, because they can't find homes. I think that's part of Damian Lillard's issue. Like it's hard for a team that under the new CBA to sign him with another star. He wants to play with a star.
Gotcha.
He doesn't want to play with Scoot Henderson.
He don't want to go to Boston either.
No, he doesn't.
It could be some of the players, but it's also, Boston has its own little history when it comes to black and brown players. So
That's correct.
So that's just going to be kind of like an issue, but just like everything, right? Like, and we always revert back to football somehow, some way. That's what we do. But when they kind of talk about the what do you call that thing? The Wildcat, right? Like that was driving teams crazy, and then they adjusted and found out like how to kind of work through that. So,
right.
so the new CBA has that kind of wrinkles in it now. What was there was some sayings that around the new CBA is when they were really start the talks about to the new teams, like 2 expansion teams and things like that. Was any of that conversation brought up, or did that set the ground for a new
That
team?
will set the ground for what those owners or those teams that want to make a bid will be able to do. There were no specific rules around the expansion. Where they did change, they did make a harder stance around ownership. And one of the big terms that you may have heard is the NBA is not interested in any sovereign ownership. Sovereign ownership is basically when you have a group of people. This is really big in Web3. If you ever hear about Web3, it's fans coming together to buy teams. But a big driver on that is that it's anonymous. You don't know who's in that group. And that's the purpose. That's what Web3 is all about. Cryptocurrency, all of that shit is about being anonymous and having a bunch of people to pull their money together, hundreds, thousands, millions of people who will take up ownership. I think today, the only team in all of sports that's owned by fans, I think, is the Packers.
The Packers.
I don't know of any other team in baseball or anything else, but we know who's involved in that. When you talk about anonymous groups, that becomes hard because now you start thinking about.
And they're blocking, as you said.
Yes, they don't want that. And I'm a fan of it. I'm a fan of not having that because I think, especially on this show, bro, one of the things that we lose out on is transparency, and it affects the Black community the most. Discrimination, biases, all of that stuff. Now add that into ownership groups and it becomes even tougher. Yeah.
It's interesting. I think that's probably why they told Kanye to chill out.
I wonder why you was chuckling.
Yeah, every time I mean those anonymous groups that Kanye was trying to say like who this anonymous group is, they like, all right, yeah, we got to chill out and we're gonna take your little Diddy's money too, bro.
Yeah. They try to come in and you don't know who's running the team, who's in charge. They're biased about they're not you don't know who's qualified and who's not, and you don't want that running a $10 billion business.
And it could lead to bad management, right? Especially when you're looking to collectively do something, right? So
yeah. It's the mob. So you see that in music, right? Like who's behind the Beehive? Who's behind, all these different groups? These fans come together and they just bully up on whoever, and you get enough people. Shit, they stopped AMC.
It's for real. So before I have some technical issue, I heard you talking about the CBA and how it's affecting how teams are building their rosters out, and the Big Three era may be long and gone. So I might have missed that. It might be a repeat for our listener, but catch me up on that part. What's your thought on that, and how does this affect how people are building teams?
What you're going to see. So another thing they introduced, which was kind of sneaky, they didn't bring in the one and done. One and done rule is still in play. And in fact, I learned that the players were actually in favor of that because they would lose
roster spots.
roles. You lose roster spots when you, and they're worried about a double draft. Double draft is you got a top high school player who waits or who has been waiting to come in at the same time when another top player is coming into the league. They're going to be eating up those spots because those owners in those management teams, they want to best talent, cheap money.
Yeah. Right.
They also added a third roster spot for two-way players. Two-way players are players that play in both the G League and the NBA.
And what's your thoughts about that?
I like it from a development perspective because it forces more channel through the G League. But I get the veterans. They're like, we're going to lose spots. That's one spot on every team that's already going to be eaten up by a incoming guy, a Scoot Henderson.
Was eaten up though, right? Like if they're given an extra spot, right?
Same spots on the squad. One more spot is now available for the G League.
2 ways.
Yeah.
Another follow up that I had with that is kind of, and I don't know, and I think you've probably heard about it, how they do the mid-level exception and what the max contract is, and how does that affect veteran players that are not max contract guys, but they're not, quite the cheap young guy labor.
That's what we were talking about when you were going. That's what the apron plays on. So I'm gonna just use plain numbers, $100 million. Let's say that's a cap. That's not, but let's just say that. The first apron is at $6 million or $6 million above that number. Once you hit that, you pay high taxes, but you need to have a certain level of exceptions in order to keep going. There's another apron that's at $17.5 million. That means at $117.5 million, you can't spend any more money. In this example, Warriors, Clippers, other teams were spending 190, 180, 170 million dollars. So what it says is that once you use that mid-level exception, you stop at the hard cap of 117. You can't go over that number
before penalties, right?
You can't. No, you actually can't.
Oh, damn.
That means that last year's deal, here's an example. The Mavericks, they signed JaVale McGee on a mid-level exception. Then they went and got Kyrie, which took them over. That deal would have never happened under the CBA. They couldn't do it legally. The Phoenix Suns could not do that deal that they just did under the new rules to get KD to come there with Book. Plus, they went and got from Washington. Name is eluding me. I keep wanting to say Beasley, not Beasley.
Bill. Bradley Bill?
Bradley Bill. Yep. Bradley Bill. My bad. Yep. So they wouldn't be able to put all those guys together. Harden, KD, Kyrie, they would have never been a thing under this rule because it stops at 117 or whatever that second apron is. You can't spend the money. And what that means is the taxes out, for example, if you spend for every $1 between $1 and $6 million, $5 million, $1.50 per dollar. Once you go over $5 million, that goes to $1.75. Keep going. $2, $2.25, $2.50 per dollar.
So do they have to readjust all the contracts that are like, because like, you know, some of these people are already in like 2, 5, whatever year contracts. Like are they grandfathered in or how does that work?
Yeah, I don't know 100% how they're going to handle those teams. I know they're going to be in some penalty for sure if they keep a lot of those guys on their roster, though, for sure.
Yeah,
that's why you're starting to see.
That's hell of a shakeup, man. That's hell of a shakeup.
Denver Nuggets. Who's the best player? He did a great job. Best player on a minimum contract. He had to leave Denver. That's Bruce Brown, who I also believe is probably the best player to come out of the Nets situation from last year, the past 2 years. He's going further.
Well, let's wait on Ben Simmons real quick. Let's just wait on that. But so I guess a follow-up question, and you were touching on it. So we like teams that are dominant, and I think you would probably say the TV numbers are the numbers that back up from just support the NBA is when there's a three-peat Bulls, there's a Kobe and Shaq Lakers, there's a LeBron and whatever, there's a Golden State Warriors. That's, there's a following behind that because, like, who's going to beat the big dogs? With this new rule, do you think it may backfire on the NBA? Because it could be the Pelicans one year, it could be the Knicks one year, it could be, what I mean, the Warriors the next year. Do you think that that backfires?
Yeah. Here's why I think it could really backfire. You're going to have guys who are your top, most elite players, and I don't think it's unique to the NBA, call it the NFL, many other teams. When these guys can't go where they want to go, they'll sit out or they won't play. Hey, you have guys that are willing to be like, nah, I'm not doing that.
Are they though? Are they?
Because if that's your job, yes, some vet players can sit out, right? Like
that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about top vet players. You're not just gonna send LeBron anywhere. Like he's gonna be like, no, fuck that. I'm not doing that. KD is gonna be like, I'm not gonna play. Like, nah, I'm going here. I'm doing this. Or
that's the interesting part. I mean, do you think, because if you look at LeBron, he's 61. KD is 54. Steph Curry is 50. Like they're all like those stars that we know are, modern medicine is what it is, but they're starting to age out a little bit, right? LeBron is 21 years in the league, right? So there's a big gap from LeBron to Zion or Ja Morant, right? Like there's a huge gap. So do you think it is a good time for the NBA to implement, hey, this is why we're going to move forward? There ain't none of y'all really cracking like that right now, because there's a big gap, or That's
No,
not even in consideration.
I think it is going
That's
to hurt
tough.
because you are correct in the difference between those players in gameplay. There's significantly bigger different value on LeBron and KD from a box office perspective, TV ratings, apparel. Like these guys bring so much loot. Like people come to the stadium, even at 75 years old, to watch these dudes play ball.
Mhm.
More before they will watch Zion.
Right.
So, and the thing is, yeah, now's not the time to do that. That's very interesting. It's a hell of a gamble. I mean, we're gonna see how it is, especially when you're seeing that all the international players are really taking everything by storm, right?
Yep.
And they're really coming here for the American dream, right? Like, so they're like, shit, I'll come here and I'll ball. Like, that's all I ever want to do is make it to the NBA. And they have that kind of like passion to ball.
Yeah.
And that shit's gonna be interesting. And it's kind of like even fall on the scenario when we just watched our former March Madness on the men's side, is because you didn't have the big names of the blue bloods in there, and it's like the people that watched the Final Four was like, no knock, but San Diego State, and Miami,
That's right.
People's like, I don't give a shit.
And their ratings will go down. It'll be interesting. But here's what they gave up. Here's what I think was a win for the players. There was a new, so BRI, that's called basketball related income. That is the money that comes into the NBA, is shared across all the teams and players. They got put into this new CBA. Licensing rights is now shared across all players. Now, that number is only projected to be like $160, $175 million, but that's a projection. Here's an example of what that number is. And we just saw that in 2019 and 2020 with the rise of NBA Top Shot. Yep, it's kind of going down now, but it introduced a new mechanism for players to make money on their name being used in other markets. Like,
does that include TV then? Does that include those network deals?
That will be another number, but that new deal isn't signed yet. So that's premature.
But that's included in the BRI, right? Or BIR, whatever the hell is, I mess up shit on the show.
Correct.
And okay.
So that's why that's important, is because before LeBron's cards were going for $1.52 million. He saw no money of that. None of that money came to his pocket.
So now if you cut a card,
correct.
Now if you cut a card, he's gonna get some of that. Now
that goes back into the player's bucket. I won't say it will go directly into his pocket. It will go into the player's bucket. So they get to make money off of.
Does that count against the cap or no? That's totally different.
No, it's totally different.
How's it split though? Right? Like the LeBron get like 35 shares and like,
do your thing, LeBron, because I'm on the bench getting paid too.
Right, get your good.
That's the number I don't know, and I tend to believe it probably is more on tenure.
Oh, that makes sense.
Related to basketball, it's related to equal amount of employees in the pool, which is 450, 425, something like that.
Right.
That's shared across them. But that's another revenue stream that didn't exist before. And when they saw cryptocurrency explode, you saw it in the NFL. Like teams were even talking about paying in crypto and NFTs and all that stuff.
Don't do that.
Like
Don't do
that. It scared a lot of businesses.
OBJ still mad that he did that contract like that.
Yeah.
I mean, sure.
Didn't Sunshine do it though? With
Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, didn't he get a contract in crypto or something?
I don't think so.
No, it was a sponsorship deal.
Yeah, maybe sponsorship, but not his like. OBJ said, "I'm taking my game checks in crypto."
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. So, is that BRI something that the women are kind of arguing that they don't have that in place, or are they fighting for the WNBA?
I don't know 100% what the BRI looks like on that side of the house. But what I do know is that it's not split and shared the same way that it is in the NBA. What that split is, I don't know.
Got you.
Yeah.
Let's jump into another thing that you kind of hit us with the pre-show. It's just talking about ownership, right? So a lot of things with like ownership, did that change? And I think we talked about it maybe briefly on the last time you were on. But the NBA can have ownership, or was that just the NFL thing?
They can have multiple sports teams now, is across the board. So if you own an NFL team, you can also own an NBA team. That was a previous rule of the NFL. They did not allow their owners to have majority stake in another sport.
Can you, as an NBA player, be an owner?
Yep.
In the
So
NBA.
they introduced that. They introduced the option for NBA players to take ownership stake in an NBA team. But that is a much different thing. And bro, I heard Rich Paul talk about this. He's not in favor of it, and I agree with him because it is something different than what the owners are doing. Majority owners takes their investment, their compounding interest, and invest that in teams.
Okay.
Players,
Take that
more than
money.
likely, are taking their salary,
Right.
their income to invest, and they don't have. And what's the big reason that we really want to see Black people in ownership? Not just to get rich, but to drive decisions around how organizations are run.
Right.
These aren't governance rights. They aren't buying into, oh, I'm gonna be a decision maker in business.
Voting
No,
right,
no.
and
This is you make money, I make money.
when the
Great,
team
awesome,
makes
let's
money,
go.
right?
That's correct. That's correct. And let's be crystal clear. Majority of owners don't make their boatload of money in sports. It comes
They
from
don't make it in sports. I mean, there's some people that are making wins, right? Because the way these teams are selling, like the Washington Redskins, the number they're selling for is like fucking ridiculous, right? What Ballmer got the Clippers with was fucking ridiculous, but that's not how they make their money, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. Now I want to see more of them, so that's why I think an opportunity for players to have a decision, governance and investment rights in teams. I think the sweet spot is the WNBA.
Now, does that have to be on?
WNBA.
I guess you're answering my question here, but it doesn't have to be. Klay Thompson can't buy the stakes in the Bulls, Chicago Bulls, or he can.
No, not. There's a structure of how they divvy out rights to the teams, and you definitely can't do it as a player and just. If he was a billionaire, he couldn't play for them and go buy the Bulls. But
get back to that because you mentioned that before, and I just think that that's like something that I definitely want to kind of hear out. So, why do you think WNBA is kind of like an avenue that we chase? Because right, you hear Serena Williams or the Williams sisters are part owners of I think the Dolphins. You hear A-Rod did Miami for a while before he got in some other ownership. You hear like as far as people in our culture, Usher's part of the Cavs. Magic.
JC was at
all these people are like,
like,
but we're chasing these really big the team structures.
Minority,
1%,
3%. Like, I get it. Like, I love it. But what I want for our league, the NBA, and when I say our league, it's a Black league. Let's be crystal clear. These are Black people who make up the majority of the players of the teams, etc. I'd love to see a Black man or woman in a majority ownership stake. The only way to be in a majority ownership stake in any of the four major sports is multi-billion dollars. And I think there's only 8 Black people in the billionaire club. Maybe. So and the ones at the bottom can't even compete. Like, you're not competing with Steve Ballmer. You're not competing with
the Waltons.
You're not competing with Jeff Bezos because only one team comes available, every 5 years?
If that, yeah.
There's no player that exists on the planet that can compete with Jeff Bezos walking into the room and be like, you know what? Let me
put some on it.
How does like a Jeff Bezos work with the other owners in the room? Like, he's substantially richer than everybody else. Does that affect the rest of the group?
Yeah, that can hurt him more, but they're more willing to have that conversation with another billionaire. You're not going to get a guy who just made $500 million. And that's income. That's not investment. That's income to sit down and say, hey, let me go buy this squad. And I've never run a business before.
For sure.
All of these guys have run corporations. Whether it's different, that's just how they view it.
When we talk about what possibly as Vegas, that's kind of like a test market and what's going on with ownership, is there any reason Michael Jordan is kind of selling his stake, or that's kind of done right now, or you think he's just making $3 billion and he bought it for whatever now?
Yeah, right? I think he just got out the game. I know there's a lot of back stories for what's going on in that organization, but he saw an opportunity as every major investor, billionaire, you can double, triple, quadruple your investment. Bro, let's be crystal clear. 4x return, 5x return on an investment is super great.
Yeah.
Like that's in any market. Like, hey,
100%.
You're talking investment, right? Because just not losing is good on an investment, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Because
That's
most
correct.
investments, they are an essential gamble, right? So you lose out, especially if you're talking like angel, maybe sports and things like that. You're not looking to do that for per se monetary gain.
That's right. That's right. I don't know why. I've been scratching my head like, why would he do that deal? Why would he not pass it down? But I never really saw Jordan as a guy that's like, hey, I'm gonna go.
Yeah, he ain't giving
care
assist
of
to
my
nobody.
fam. I'm gonna take care of my
He ain't passing that.
He taking the last shot. Don't care who he's passing.
Jordan ain't passing that to his family to know their body.
But I do, like, what do we? I mean,
his son don't deserve it. I tell you that.
We not. Yeah. Right. We'll fast and pray for him. How does that like? What do do we do? I mean, with Jordan, do we associate with him anything other than he has a lot of stuff, right? He has he got a lot of stuff, so I'm not going to disrespect him like that. But he is NBA, and NBA is Jordan. Like, I can't see Jordan away from that product too long.
Well, there's some talk that there's some shady business of like how he got like
he'll be around, but he
out of it.
And
I think it's less pressure too, right? Like, isn't it maybe an ego thing, right? Like you're supposed to be the best player and you with a shitty ass team. Like,
bro,
I mean,
go keep making billions on your shoes. That's what he going. Every piece of apparel with his logo on it. Every high school, college, every team. Like he's still going to make money hand over fist. He's still making money from McDonald's. Still making money from Hanes.
I mean, and his new passion seems to be that racing, right? So like he's dumping a lot of money in that racing. Got Bubba, and got to I don't know Denny Hamlin or however he like partnered.
And doesn't he have like a motocross dude too? I think he has a motocross.
Yeah, he's got a whole motor like so they do NASCAR, the bikes and all that stuff. So who knows what he's into? But
cool.
Yeah,
interesting to see him sell it though, right? Like it's definitely going to be some stories that like ultimately like bubble up for why he did it, right?
Right.
So and then back to your cue though, that's why because this NBA is so expensive, NBA, NFL, MLB, there's just only price for billionaires. The WNBA is prime. The WNBA today looks like the NBA economically in 1986. And players can afford to do that and get in with majority of stake, 51% or more, sit on it, develop it, foster it, give it some TLC. You'll be looking at a $1 billion league, a decade, 2 decades.
That's if they make that right transition though, right? Because like that time frame you said for the NBA, David Stern really like did some things. And I think we talked about either on our live or one of our shows. I think we talked about it on Growing the Game, MH. I think we kind of talked about some of the things that they did, right? Which is kind of coming to bite them in the ass, but like growing it internationally, getting youth involved by doing like, inside the NBA and things like that. So, I love the fact that you said the WNBA. And as soon as you said it, I said that shit just like light bulb went off. Like that is definitely an entry point. But isn't that kind of crowded too? I mean, there's not that many teams, right?
Yeah. It is crowded, but what I mean is you can compete financially in that space. Where if the money you put together to be a minority owner in an NBA team with Oprah and Magic Johnson and Usher and all these people in the NBA,
you could be a majority.
You can be a majority in the WNBA, and you can pull together some loot and really get these teams, because part of growing that league is also going to be the investment and partnerships that they bring in, their sponsorship, the brands, all of that. They do all of that stuff. Man, the play is going to be good. Like that, I don't see the play declining. So I don't.
No, the play is going to be.
It's going to be the business side of it is what's going to really make it skyrocket.
And then understanding the opportunity, right? Because there's back and forth. We've talked about this on our live shows. Whether they're going to ever add expansion teams. Yeah. And then you also see that like a lot of these teams, kind of what the league did a couple years ago with the G League, is starting to make sure that the G League was a part of most of the franchises to make sure that like there was development resources and things like that. So you'll see like a side that owns, you know, the Nets, but he also owns the Liberty, right? You have, you know, Mark Davis that owns the Raiders, but he also owns. So they're like getting some major league affiliation in that realm. So,
Yep.
while I do think I think it's tough, still a tough way to get in, but your logic about the money makes a hell of a lot of sense, man, and gives people, like you said, ownership, like true ownership, right?
Governance
And
is what
governance.
they want. Like, I run this team. I'm not just collecting a check off of every dollar made, which is good. That's good too. But we want Black folks to be making decisions about how these companies behave.
Yeah, I wonder who the next star is because you know Jordan held the mantle for NFL or NBA for a long time. LeBron has done the same. Has taken
I
that
think he's
thing,
the
and
closest. I think he's the closest.
no, I
LeBron.
mean even in the WBA as
Oh,
well.
and
So, yeah, I wonder who's going to be that one that takes the league to the next level.
Well,
Honestly, in my
Asia wins
East.
another title. I mean, she's got she got MVPs. You know, she's not. It doesn't seem like she's being that like spokesperson per se.
I was thinking
Asia's
Parker.
Asia's a good one.
Parker.
But
Like,
Candace is on the way out though.
I mean the voice of the league and getting to a point where like Michael Jordan is with the NBA is my point.
But Michael Jordan was game. I mean, I'm not disrespecting Asia. Like multiple time MVP, statue. Like obviously this game, but you know, Asia's mellow. Like Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony game don't pop the same way LeBron's and
right.
Michael Jordan's did. Just to the casual fan. So who's that next one that's like, dang, she got that flash? You know what I mean? I already know one, Chelsea Gray. But
hey, give it to the point guard. Hey, she's a
so cold.
beast.
Hey, I know. I think I can ball. I'll be like, yeah, y'all got next.
I'm gonna sit this one out.
I'm gonna sit this one out. Nope.
Chelsea Gray's so cold.
She will cross the fuck out of you.
Chelsea's cold. I mean, and there's no like, you know, you don't have a Cheryl Swoops or Lisa Leslie, right? Because like, you know, she dunked, right? So those are like those memorable moments that she carried. They also the Olympics, you know, when the women were going over to the Olympics, you don't have like, even though our girls went over to the Olympics, it's not as big as a draw anymore, right? Because we're not just totally dominating anymore. So that Olympic kind of thing helped the women, you know, provide that spotlight. So that's a good question, MH. As a matter of fact, if y'all listen to this, give us what y'all think. Who would be that name? Because like, as I sit back and think about it, right? Like anybody that's that name, like Sue Bird, no, she's gone, right? And was she ever like really? She just played a long time, but it wasn't like she was that dominant,
like dominant player. Yeah,
correct.
And they're coming. I mean, I can think whatever I think of.
Like, she's getting a lot of
like to me, like the Lisa Leslie, Rebecca Lobos of the worlds, like those are names, but like that their style of game to the casual, it's not going to work because they're going to just Mike and drill you to death, right? But like a Caitlin Clark, and I could think whatever of her actual game, but like her game is flashy, and there's a couple of young ladies in the high school realm right now that are really dope, like dope. So it might be one of them. I just think there's going to be a name here soon that's going to have to take the mantle of like, yo, that's a. So
you don't think there's one in there today?
Well, I think in that scoop, right? Like her injury kind of put her back for 1 year, right? So, I mean, she's kind of like someone that'll pull up, you know, kind of flashy, try, you know, take her game to the hole. You know what I mean? But we grabbing it, we grasping the straws.
They have some, like Breonna Stewart is cold. Like I said, Asia cold, right? Cold. Like, But when you think about those outside of LeBron and like Shaq, Michael Jordan was a little bit like he wasn't Kareem, right? So he's not, you know what I mean? But he was 6'6" flashy. Steph Curry is whatever, you know. I'm saying
I touch the rock 80% of the time. Everything's coming through me.
Exactly. And I'm not waiting for you to post me up. Like I'm the one.
This ain't no team ball. This ain't no. I'm the guy.
I'm the one that's mixing it up, and I do think because the game is revolved around that too. Like they do a lot more ISOs now. Like they have freedom. It's not just the flex offense every time up the court. Like they, you know what I mean? It's an exciting brand of basketball.
Right.
I believe there's a perimeter person that they always have to have that kind of takes them out of the league. So I'm interested to see who that perimeter person is coming. And maybe I'm missing somebody in the game right now. I'm a big fan of the WNBA, so I can't think of anybody. Like I said, Chelsea Gray is the coldest to me, but Chelsea Gray is not 21, right? Like she's a little older than that. So who's the next one is what I want to see.
Okay.
So other changes, man. So there's some rule changes that kind of came up. So if we could touch on those a little bit, man. I know we were talking about one of them pre-show, so we can get into that. But the other, we'll touch on these really quick because it's like to be determined, and they're testing those out. But the instant replay, man, like, how do we feel about that? Like, I heard it, I'm like, yeah, okay, you kind of had a little bit and giving coaches some leeway. What's your thoughts on that, B?
Man, I love it. I ain't gonna cry. I love it. And I kind of call bullshit when people say it's bad for the game. I
like it slows it down and takes momentum and all of that shit.
Isn't basketball one of the shortest games in all of professionals in the 4 major sports?
Yeah, it's 48 minutes. Yeah.
Bro, like, what are we talking? Like, get the call right. Get the damn call right. Like, if there's an opportunity to do that, I mean, we're talking about now. I get the last 1 minute of a game and you start fouling and that shit takes 47 minutes to end. I get it. But man, I like it. Give them because I think you get one right. You don't lose a timeout, but the second one, you still lose a timeout, even if you get it right or wrong.
You get it right, but you get that additional challenge or some shit like that.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see how it kind of affects the game. Like, I mean, they're toying around with it here in Vegas in the summer league, and like I haven't really got down there and checked it out. And not to knock it, that's not real basketball because summer league you get like 15 fouls in summer league. So
yeah, I think the bigger problem is, hey, New York, you're watching this game.
Consistency.
Like, make the call. Let's make the call. Like, you're relying on a guy who doesn't have an angle.
Mm-hmm.
He's watching it full speed. He doesn't get to really watch it twice. New York, you already saw it. Just tell him.
All right. The flopping. Oh, what you got, MH?
Slight devil's advocate here.
Okay.
Slight devil's advocate.
Okay. Nigga raise his hand. So this is gonna be some bullshit. You know that, B. When the nigga raises his hand in an open forum, it's gonna be some bullshit.
I don't think it should be no timeouts in the game.
Not quite there. Call your own fouls is what I was thinking. Now, what's interesting about the NBA, and for better or worse, we know who the officials are, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, we actually know them, their personalities, what style of game.
Like, they got beef with the players.
I don't like you. Star player, shut up. I'm gonna call you tech. I'm controlling this game. And then to me, I think that gives an element to the NBA that you don't really have in football, except for tag. What's my man's name? Hockey league that was buff, like but no, like in any other major sports, you don't really know who the officials are, right? You just they officiate the game. In the NBA, you kind of like, oh, Joey Crawford got this game, okay. Like Scott Foster, damn, CP, you ain't gonna win this. You know what I mean? Like, I think that adds to the dramatics of the NBA, and I wonder if by adding challenges to get the call right takes away from that part of the game of the NBA. That takes away from that conversation. That's all. I'm okay. Go back to this.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
Great point of view. Should we give him a clap? Oh shit! So another one was now you can get technicals for flopping.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? There's a hell of a pause.
I don't like it. I don't like it. I think I heard Doc Rivers say this. Like, if he flops, just let him keep going. Like, let them keep going. Like,
well, you're
gonna give up buckets. If you flop and you go down, you're gonna give up buckets.
But what I heard though is like they don't necessarily stop the game in that moment. So you can flop, the game continues, and then they can review it at the next stoppage. It doesn't have to be right there. So if you miss and it's kind of goes back and forth, the next stop is like it could be 3 or 4 possessions back and forth down the clock of the court. They can stop them like, hey, you remember like about 4 plays ago?
Got you.
That was a flop. We tear your ass up. That's gonna be interesting as fuck. Like that's how I interpreted it. So
I don't personally think it's going to work because to me it goes back to the challenge thing, because essentially if you start giving text for that, that's going to alter some games. So then the coach is going to be like, hey, I need a challenge. My man didn't flop. I legit got ran over. And then it's going to be like, no, I really, you know what I mean? So that's going to slow up the game. Well, how do you determine who's fake and who's not, whatever the case is? Just let that ride. That's just part of the game.
I'm with you on that, because money's not going to change them flopping.
Yeah, let that ride.
As long as you got a superstar in your squad and you got the call and it went your way, man, your guy's gonna pay for that.
I think it's going to be two things. The NFL tried to do like, hey, running backs, you can't lower your head in the open field. They've called that 2 times in the last 10 years. So like it's still a rule, but they don't actually call it. So that's going to be one of them. And then 2, remember that random first half of the season when the NBA had these new basketballs out of nowhere, and everybody's like, I hate the basketballs. Yeah, and they're like, here, man, bring the old ones back. We didn't throw them away from storage. We'll play with those again. And that's what the flop thing is going to be like. They might call it the first week. They're gonna be mad, like, watch out, man.
Yeah, because do we think that rule that they changed last year or 2 years ago with the shooting player, like getting the foul?
Oh, the little James Harden stuff.
James Harden rule, whatever. They didn't really change anything. I didn't think it did.
I mean, they don't. A lot of times they say like, maybe it's not even the James Harden, that Kevin Durant thing when they do that sweep thing. They like, it's not a free throw. You just take the ball out.
Yeah,
but has that really changed? Kevin Durant's still gonna do it, so chances are like it don't change anything. So let that ride, NBA. Stop trying to change everything, bro.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, man. And so just wrapping it up here, man. I think a big one, and I mean definitely MH and B, y'all going to lead the way on this one. Just kind of the new like tournament format thing that they kind of got going in. So So both of y'all liking that, nodding the head, ready for that. So, no, you're not nodding your head.
I don't know.
You don't know yet. All right. So, B, give us give the people kind of like the little layout of it.
In-season tournament, very similar to the WNBA, and basically they're going to put all 30 teams in a bucket. They're going to play games between November 3rd and December 7th, and then they're going to play a semifinal and championship game in Las Vegas at T-Mobile Arena, December 7th to December 9th.
Hold on. So you said like the WNBA, but what's that? It's the Commissioner's Cup or something like that. They call it. But that's just based on record, right?
Yep. And that's how they pick these players, these teams. They got in the bucket based on their record over the past, I want to say the past 3 years.
Time frame. Just say a time frame. Yeah. Now, they didn't play did they play a special game for that, or was it just like best record for the WNBA? Just so I'm kind of getting that format.
I think it more. I don't know what the WNBA one is, so to speak, but I know in the NBA it's more weighed on like, hey, we want to keep Tuesday night games and Friday night regular season games in this time period. Kind of like this is part of the
have some value, kind of like
have some value that hey, if you win or lose these games, it's determine your position in the group, which determines if you're going to get that extra whatever game it is in Vegas, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah. Because all the games do count as regular season games. The only game that's not is the final.
Mm-hmm. And they're playing that here in Las Vegas, right? So that's dope.
Oh, semi and finals there.
Everybody plays 82 games. 2 teams play 83.
So hold on. It would be two games, though, right? You said the semis and the final, right? So
I believe the semis will still count as regular season.
Mm-hmm. So it's like it's 82 games, and what's the backstory to it that I think is really cool is they kept the groups all Eastern and Western Conference because I thought they were going to kind of mix them, and that kind of messes up with the travel schedule. If you're in a regular season game, and you might have LA might miss out on being in New York one day if you try to cross the Eastern or Western Conference games.
They flying in these jets that get across the country in 3 hours, man. They ain't
no, for sure though. But if the scheduling is all messed up, it might be a situation where the Lakers won't go to the Brooklyn Nets. Like right now, it's set up every fan base can at least see somebody one time, right?
That's correct.
That's the way it's set up.
The first round they play 4 games, 2 at home, 2 on the road.
Yep.
And then the knockout rounds, just single elimination.
Yep.
But the big thing is the NBA is testing the hell out of Las Vegas. They are doing it big time. Summer League, G League Ignite.
Right.
They also are evaluating how USA Basketball, they do their stuff here in Vegas.
Slam ball is coming back to Vegas.
And then this will be the first official, I think, NBA game in Las Vegas. I think.
Official? You mean like
that's a regular season one?
Regular season NBA game.
Not a preseason or like a, what do you call them?
Yep.
Huh.
And I think that's cool. Not stepping away from Vegas just like 2 seconds. Even in the NFL, when they were having those problems with whatever the stadium was, now they're the DeMar Hamlin situation. I apologize, and they were thinking about doing the conference championship games in neutral sites.
Yeah,
and they kind of tested it like, oh, we could really make some money there on these conference championship games. So I do think that part of the in-season tournament being in Vegas, whether it's in Vegas or it doesn't matter, being at a neutral site, I think is a unique way to get a different part of your fan base there too. So
I see it differently. I don't see it as they're evaluating, hey, what does it look like for a neutral site? Our NBA team is going to be there one day. We want to know.
100%.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, this ain't going to be no neutral site in 3-4 years, 5 years. It's going to be home base.
Yeah. We'll see. I guess they took a lot of the model, obviously, from the WNBA, but in European soccer, they do the same type of different kind of cup type things during the regular season. Maybe this is an intrigue to the regular season. I think the simple fix would be just go to 66 games and people take it a little more serious. But we know there's sponsorship dollars and TV stuff that you probably can't do that.
Bro, they just take 90 days off, 70 days off. That's it.
Oh, the NBA.
Right? We just finished.
I was just telling my homeboy,
like, bro,
do y'all get off season? Like the NBA, like does not get off season for real. Like they doing something all the time. They get 2 weeks off,
bro. That's what it feels like. Feels like they got the weekend off.
No, for real.
Hey,
by time
the weekend and a floating holiday.
Yeah. By the time it's week 2 of the NFL season, on the other side is going to be training camp for the NBA.
Yeah.
It's like, oh dang, that's crazy.
That's right. Yeah,
you don't get no break.
And that's if it's not like FIBA or some kind of world championships or something that have these guys.
And that's in August, right?
Right. Yeah. That's just. I mean, because your boy Wimby's like, no, I'm sitting out of that, man. I love my country.
I gotta get a meal at some point.
What y'all think about Wimby? By the way, what y'all think he?
I hope he can match the hype, man.
Okay.
I think he's gonna be good.
I do too. The hype, I think he's chasing a ghost, man, a dream.
I think he is too. That's a really good point. I do wonder if half of his hype is like, oh, he's 7'5" and can dribble between his legs and shoot jump shots.
Right.
When we can't forget that he's 7'5". Get your tall butt under the basket and just dunk. Let's
he doesn't like. He's going into I really don't like playing the low post. That's not him.
At a certain point, let's just get an offensive rebound and tippy toes and dunks. That is cool too, right?
You're 2.5 inches from the rim, right? You know that, right?
You don't have to jump. It's cool that you can dribble between your legs, but you also 8 feet tall. Just get underneath the basket too. Yeah. I do wonder about that. The game this is the renaissance, or I don't know. Give me another R word, revolution, or the remake, the remix. There's a million R words to say what the big man is in the NBA. So you got the Jokic, you got Embiid. Wimby, whatever you feel about Wimby, Giannis, whatever you feel about Giannis, the best players are big men. And I know Kareem's showing up everywhere now. Hey, I'm back. The big man back.
Kareem was
Kareem don't trip no more all of a sudden. Yeah, I'm like, hey, Kareem, what you doing?
Kareem's at Thomas and Mack. What? That boy everywhere now. He the big man back, bro.
Yeah.
Let's go. Shout out to Cap. All right, man. Let's wrap it up, man. Any final thoughts, man? B, we'll turn it over to you.
Bro, this is going to be an exciting season coming up, man. All this movement around the league, I think it's going to be a big deal, but I'm even more excited for the opportunity the players have to make money outside of the game. So that's my
I like it. MH?
Yeah, I can't let this show go without talking about the season coming up. How a particular team's season ended in Cleveland to the team out in Madison Square Garden. I couldn't let the show end like that. So, let's get your thoughts on what happened, man.
For the record, yes, I did have Cleveland going deep. Yep, I thought Donovan Mitchell and that squad.
You just said it was about to annihilate one team on here. You had a bet about a certain team.
I did. They should have beaten New York. Damn, I got to eat crow. You're right. You're right.
And then disappeared on the next live. He ain't show up
I
for the
did.
next
Hey,
live.
I
hey,
didn't say that.
came up.
He was using my same internet. He plugged.
My internet
That's why
wasn't
my
bad.
internet worked. Right. That's why my internet worked. You done sabotaged my internet, man.
Oh shit.
Yeah, man. Yo, Knicks, you think they're gonna do good this year? What we think?
I think they'll be where they are, status quo.
Oh.
There's a couple moves that they made. I think we playing chess, not checkers. We done touched on a whole lot they doing. We playing the salary cap right. We not in that second apron. We let somebody go. We signed. So there's another move coming. Joel Embiid, Giannis, one of them. Mark my words. Don't look like that, B. Don't look like that.
You gonna put a Charles Barkley on there?
Do we got his drop?
Oh man, don't do me like that. No, I need to get it.
Guaranteed. No, I
Guaranteed.
do think the Knicks are playing chess, not checkers. They didn't make a crazy trade. They didn't trade for Paul George right now to say we need this old head in there.
Mm-hmm.
They playing it safe. So they gonna come in 2025.
2025. Got it.
What is it? 2025?
What was it before Mayan graduates? What was it? What was that on the one show on the Knicks are back?
Did we say before Mayan graduates?
I think you said before she graduates on our Knicks show.
2025. Listen,
We always do a Knicks show, so I don't know what season that was, but we always do a shout out to your Knicks.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's enough of that.
2025 champions.
They're back. And I guess for me, man, only thing I'm excited for is I'm ready to see a team come to Las Vegas, man. I want to kind of start to hear that momentum. I can't wait till it starts getting into the, we get the blessings, whether they're going to do the two teams and, Vegas being, donned as one and kind of like the whole LeBron wants a team and all of that nonsense. I'm all about it. But long story short is I can't wait to see a team in the town, definitely long overdue.
Yeah. Well,
It's going to be cool.
All right, man. Well, hey, thanks everybody. That's perfect.
That boy tired.
Hey, tired, but the battery went out on us. But hey, we want to thank everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. We drop new episodes every. Oh, here we go. You back? We drop new episodes every Thursday. So please, if you like this episode, share it. And if you got any questions, man, we had a lot of things that we were kind of going through, figuring out who that person is in the WNBA. What did you like to see for the next season with the CBA changes? And then just kind of tap in, man. So please stay safe, practice gratitude, and know we're rooting for you.
Screaming, all us blacks got in sports and entertainment until we even.
Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Look. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Spent about 2 racks on handmade new rags. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. That's everybody from sports to college class to rap and back.